Hi everyone, before I start today's video, now there is a possibility that you can talk with me directly. You just have to simply go on www.nikshala.com, book an appointment, and I will get in touch with you directly. Now, sending an email and back and forth can be done, of course, but again, my team members handle all of that. If you want to talk with me directly, please book an appointment on nikshala.com. Let's start today's video. Alright guys, welcome back once again. So I'm sitting here with Hrithik. He's a full stack developer working here in Munich. Probably this is our first time I have somebody from Munich.
Yes.
While I'm physically here in Munich, you're going to see other videos also. His story is quite unique compared to others who come on a job seeker's visa or get a job directly from India or wherever you are from. But anyway, before I talk so much, I'm going to let Hrithik go ahead. Please go ahead and introduce yourself to my audience.
Alright, hi, I am Hrithik. I am a full stack developer with over 5 years experience in the industry right now. My predominant focus is healthcare and insurance. So I started my career way back in 2015 January as a simple front-end developer, but eventually in my role I got to the position of full stack where I was the team lead. And yeah, my story of arriving in Germany is unique because I ended up coming here on deputation with one of my companies that I was working with, and I actually made the full use of my time that I was there. It was a brief 2.5 months to 3 months time that I was in Munich itself, and ended up securing over 7 job offers during this 2.5 months. So yes, it's not impossible. I'd like to call it the DPL theory. That's you'll have to be absolutely dedicated, you'll have to be a little bit of lucky, and you'll have to be persistent with what you're doing and always be at it. And It's not impossible to get a job here.
Can you tell us a bit about where do you come from, what education you've had?
Yes, so basically I come from Kolkata, but I've done my higher education from Bangalore. I have been in Bangalore for over 10 years. That's where I also got my first job.
Let's go a bit slow. So before coming to Munich for deputation for 3-4 months, how much was your total experience?
So I was probably 3.5 years experience back then.
Just in the 3.5 years of
Yes.
experience, they send
Yes.
you to Munich.
Yes.
Cool boy. Okay. Let's go forward with your with this discussion. What are your core skills in terms of technicalities?
Yeah. So I started off as a front-end developer back in 2015, and honestly, we didn't really have this boom of single-page applications like Angular, React, blah blah blah. So we only had Core JSP or basic JavaScripts back then. So it was not really helpful. So it didn't really pull my attention to it much, so I eventually moved on to become a mobile developer on one of the JavaScript frameworks. It was called Titanium, and it was back in the days a famous technology. So what that does is it helps you develop applications for iOS and Android at the same time, and compile it as their own packages and ship it to their own Play stores, right? So what this did for me was it also exposed the mobile world, right? And at the pace which front end is growing today, if you realize it was on desktop once, it came to mobile next, and probably now the core underlying technologies behind front end is also server side, right? So I got to do all of these three with my tenure with my previous organization. But eventually what happened was one of the clients really liked me and kept me for a longer term. And I got to build a fresh project for them, which was a healthcare client, and we introduced Angular 2, and that for me was a big turning moment in my career, because Angular 2 was just released on that day. And yes, one of my technical leads from Seattle, he and me, we introduced Angular 2 for that particular healthcare giant. By the way, that company is a multi-million-dollar company in the US. Yeah, so it was just because of their trust and probably because of the way I responded on their previous projects that they've given me this opportunity, and I think that was history, because from there my Angular career started, and I started gaining experience on Angular, be it 2, 3, no, there was no 3, 2, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. And on this project itself, my previous organization also put their trust on me on building their server side as well, because server side was using a technology called JavaScript. It's based on JavaScript. It's called Node.js. It was helped for building all kinds of backend applications nowadays. And eventually what happened was, from front end, I also got to see the backend part. So I eventually became a backend developer for some time. And then when I got bored of doing backend, I started clubbing these two and sort of became a full stack. So I was doing front end, I was doing back end, I was handling their databases, and eventually, as a telecom partner came by, I also got the opportunity to work on some bits and pieces of DevOps. People from DevOps background would probably know this. It's called CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous development. Due to which I got exposed to stuff like Jenkins, which is a big thing today in today's architecture. So luckily, I count myself as lucky because my organization did put their trust on me to build all of these three. And when you come from India to a place like Germany, if you are a complete package, you are much more a valued asset than if you are just probably a front-end developer or just a back-end developer.
Going back to your introduction part where you said you cracked, when you were on Deputation, you gave 7 interviews and you got all 7 of them.
Yes.
As a full-time job.
Yes.
Like seriously, this is something that I've not come across.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested to know, in fact, even they would want to know that what went around in those periods. What kind of, if you were to give us an example of one of the interviews, like your current job right now, what you're doing here in Germany, if you can walk us through the interview phase and the questions which were asked to you and the way they challenged you.
Okay.
So can you just go ahead?
Yes. Small correction before that. 7 interviews I cracked. 1 I rejected because I didn't like the way they were thinking, because I totally understood.
One you rejected?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was interesting because I had a 30 minutes long discussion and they were about to offer me an offer letter, and then I said, no, hang on, wait there. I've never said that I'm going to work with you because you've got your technologies messed up. And they eventually came back to me later, the technical guy, that probably what he was saying was correct. And at that point I really knew that no, I can't put my foot in that hole. So you can actually even do that, so you have the flexibility.
Right.
Anyways, the other one, I wouldn't call it a rejection upfront, but what happens was the first round, in general, in every company that you interview with in Germany, would probably be a culture fit round. So unlike India, where you have this probably at the end of your interviews, you have it in the beginning in Germany, wherein you are questioned by the HRs, who tries to see if you are a fit in their organization, in their culture. So most of the companies today are international, right? So they sort of try and understand if you have that international mindset, or how would you gel along with a person from Germany or Spain, or say for example, it's not a surprise you can work with a Pakistani, and if you have reservations against those countries, then that's a problem for them. So that's your first round. That'll be a cultural fit.
Right.
After your cultural fit, if they find that you are good enough, you probably get to talk with a junior developer who would not grill you too much, honestly. There'll be some basic questions to understand if you can lead them. It will not be really to see if you know everything, but what they want to see is, are you a lead material? So that's your second round in general. Third round would be a proper technical round, where you would be interviewed by 2 technical guys. At least for me, it was 2 in all the companies.
Okay.
Yeah, and they really test your in-depth knowledge about the technologies that you're talking about.
Can you give us an example?
Yes. If you are a front-end developer, accessibility is probably one of the most important things in Germany.
Okay.
So accessibility basically means, if you're a blind person, how would you scrape through our website, right? Because if you look at these the poles here, the signals, even if you have this stop button, you do see the 3 dots or the 4 dots. Yeah. So it's a big thing in Germany, and accessibility is probably one of the most neglected topics in front-end development in today's world.
Okay.
Second, testing. How do you take testing? They probably wouldn't ask you too many testing questions to test your technical knowledge on how well you know probably a syntax, because here everybody believes you can Google it. Google is there for you. But they would want to understand your mindset. Like, are you ready to test a code before it ships to ships to production? Because testing, again, is something that no developer likes, honestly. Because it's a waste of time. That's what the general perception is. But it's the most useful time that you can put on, because it ultimately boils down to stability of your code. Right, so testing is very important. And third is, they wouldn't again grill you too much on technical know-hows, because again, as I said, today any language that you have, be it Angular, React, or whatever, Node.js, you have documentations of everything. So they'll ask you questions around your previous experience, what kind of hurdles you faced in those projects, and how you overcome those problems, so how you approach those kinds of problems. Reason is, when you open your mouth, you're sort of already speaking sense. And if you just have bookish language, or you just know the documentation or probably the syntaxes by heart, you probably wouldn't be able to tackle tricky situations, right? So none of the 7 really grilled me. However, there was one company which was a startup, and they were a startup in the telecommunication domain. With them, I had a 2.5 hours grilling session, completely hands-on. And prior to that, they had also sent me a GitHub link with material to which I had to respond.
Okay.
And they gave me almost 1 month's time. So it's not like India that I'll give you in the morning and I expect tomorrow morning. So almost they gave me 1 month's time. They followed up with me every 7 days. Like, what's the status? Yes, what's the status? What's the status? And I had to reply back to them. I know probably it was tough, but honestly, I didn't get time, so I started doing it in the 3rd week and I completed in 3 days time. So I eventually submitted it to them after 1 month, but I still got a positive response from them. And that application that I built, imagine it to be like Google for PlayStation games.
Okay.
So you sort of building a front end wherein you build the entire UI. There's no UX person, that is, there's no designers to help you. So you'll have to think from a design perspective as well.
Okay.
Yes, and then you code the front end, and then you obviously build the back end for it, and you have the database, and then plug all those holes and let a user search it. And that's not where it stops. It stops after you deploy it. So they want to see it as say abc.com. And that's when they know that you are a complete package. Because when you are selling yourself as a full stack, these entire steps actually make you a full stack. Even if one is missing, you're not a proper full stack.
Okay.
So if you sell yourself as a full stack, make sure you can start from scratch and build a product that's deployable and maintainable as well, and testable, obviously.
Right.
So that was the coding round. After that, the 2.5 hours grilling session was.
This was 4th round now.
This was the 4th round.
Technical was 3rd round.
Yes. It was the 4th round. But the 4th round, there were 5 people who've grilled me on intervals of 30 minutes each. And that was crazy. And but they grilled me on every know-hows, like HTML. If you write HTML on top of an HTML, why do you write that? Like, what are meta tags? How would you optimize your code? How would you make sure that if you just Google your website, it comes up on the front? That basically is SEO, search engine optimization techniques. Followed by some basic JavaScript questions, like we ask in India as well. Like, if you interview, you'd know this. What's the output of this program? Or how would you correct this program? Sort of things. Then they went on to giving me a complete infrastructure. And imagine you have a Philips bulb, right? And a Philips Hue bulb rather, which you can control using your mobile devices. How would you make sure, if you are in Antarctica where there's no Wi-Fi, or there's no mobile network, that bulb still works? So you should be able to still control it using your mobile devices. And that was completely new for me, but my thought process was what they were looking after. They didn't bother about if I knew that or not.
Right.
So they wanted to check if I know stuff about network coverages or Wi-Fi's, or how they work, or how would you make sure the signal bounces from your mobile to your device, and how would you turn that on. And then they went on to asking questions like, how would you optimize the power output on that? So because if you're in these isolated countries, you wouldn't really want to waste energy, because energy is money. And so that was the entire round. And then how would you deploy that to the cloud, because you don't have Wi-Fi again. So these were the basic questions asked by that particular company. And otherwise, on the other 6 companies, I was just grilled for about half an hour by 2 technical developers, and then I went on to the next round, which is your interview with your immediate reporting manager.
5th round now.
Yes.
Okay.
So that round would be your immediate reporting manager, where he would talk to you, sort of try and understand your background a little bit, so that he can gauge if you are a fit in their project or not. Right. So that would not be too much of a discussion, because it probably would last 15-20 minutes. It'll be a casual discussion. After that, I had the discussion with the senior manager on 4 companies but 1. So on all the 4 companies, I had a senior manager round, which was again a cultural fit sort of a check.
After all these 6-7 rounds of interview, what was the visa process for you? Because on Deputation, you're on one of the company who has sent you on a project on site.
Yeah.
So how did it go? Did you go back to India? Did you do everything from there, or how was it?
The Deputation visa is completely different from a Type D national visa, let's say. Right? So on a Deputation visa, you're not allowed to switch your jobs here.
Mm-hmm.
So you would definitely need to exit the country once and go back to your homeland, and then restart the process for you. Restart your entire visa process. You can definitely bargain for time in this. Since I already did my visa for the Deputation, I knew how tedious a process it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I did bargain for 7 months time. So my interview was in September,
Mm-hmm.
and I joined in March.
Wow.
September, October, November, December, January, February, March. 7 months.
How did you convince the HR?
They just said I couldn't make it. Because the
Wow.
visa process in Germany is not simple. Because
Oh my God.
people in India already know about this. Like getting an appointment, it's a pain.
But how did you convince the HR? That's my question,
I-
because I'm like considering if I'm the HR, do I really want to wait for him for 7 months?
Yes. So I still have that mail, by the way. Wherein I had sent him a screenshot all the way till February, and just told him there's no slots available.
Okay.
So what do you do next? So that's when they were convinced. Actually, I would assume they were convinced that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, one was in March, and the other offer that I got, I never signed, by the way. The joining was in April. So one was 7 months, one was 8 months, because I had to choose. Remember, because I couldn't sign it.
Yeah.
So I need to see which one was more feasible. That's why I bargained for a month after and
Wow.
March. So yeah, as I was based in Bangalore, and probably folks know, getting a visa appointment in Bangalore is next to impossible. Forget Bangalore, I think.
I think
Bombay,
that's the
Delhi.
case everywhere now.
Yeah, it's the case everywhere in India, by the way.
So that was the whole story. Before we end this video, Ritik, what is your suggestion? Where is your industry, full stack industry, moving towards? What kind of preparation I should be ready with if I'm sitting and watching this video right now in Bangalore? I have a very well settled job. I have good earnings here. Everything is good. Why? Why is it important to you? Again, it's a very subjective thing, right?
It's subjective, and according to me, in my opinion, I think 2020 to 2025 is probably a golden ticket to come to Germany.
Right.
The reason is there's this imbalance between the demand and supply.
Right.
Unfortunately, Germany, even till date, is way behind in terms of technology. And probably it might boil down to because people do not speak English, and unfortunately code only speaks in English. Yeah, that might be a reason, I don't know. But yeah, majority of the good developers that I've seen so far are all from India.
Okay.
And German people do value Indian IT engineers over the native German people. If you possess the right skills, that is. Right? So yeah, full stack I think is here to stay, absolutely, because the world has completely shifted to the full stack way of doing things. Unlike the JSP's way of rendering stuff, just gone. Previously there was experts in these particular genres of on front end or back end or DevOps. Right now it's sort of the mix of all three. Reason I think it's because you are an asset, and you wouldn't really have to pay that much money to hire a backend developer because you can do that job for us. So the industry is, I think, on full stack at the moment. There's nothing to worry about it, and the best part about being a full stack is you never get bored, because if you are getting bored using just doing front end, you can switch to back end or switch to a mobile application development or DevOps or whatever. But again, as I said, your core stacks of full stack must be clear. If you are a JavaScript developer, mean stack or MERN stack is absolutely fine. Even Vue.js is coming up these days. It's absolutely fine if you stay with any one technology. If you open LinkedIn, I can guarantee you every job today, if you type in full stack, will specify Angular, React, Vue, JavaScript, Node.js. And if you are a master of any three of them, you are set. You don't need to worry about anything else.
Right. All right, Ritik, thank you so much for coming on my channel. That was a very intensive technical talk. I hope that it helped you. Yes, there is a possibility that if you're coming on a deputation, you can look around. And again, I wouldn't say he got lucky, but he really put in the hard work. He was ready with all the hard questions which would have come on his way, whether it was technical or whether it was about fitting in the team, So yeah, all this, I hope that this discussion has helped you. If you enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.